We're
So
recording.
we are going to be recording, and we are also going to be live on YouTube. So both of those things will be available after the fact. So we'll have this ready and available for you. I'm going to click go live, and I'm going to do this right now. So that way I don't have that weird echo like I did last time.
We're learning.
We're learning, yes. And also, if you have any questions, we can put them in the chat so that way we can keep track of everything and address everything. So with all that being said, I'm going to click off of this bad boy. There we go. And then we will start our video. And again, this is the Black National Anthem sung by the wonderful Jimmy Herod.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the faith that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun, let us march on till victory. Let us march on till victory. Till victory is won.
Whew. That gives me chills all the time.
Every time.
Yes.
Every time.
Yes.
So once again, Jimmy Herod of Pink Martini. For those who weren't here last, I met Jimmy when he was living in Portland. He now lives in New York. And I asked him to do this for us specifically. And he agreed. And he agreed, but he said he lives in a small apartment and he was worried about being able to actually sing. So I was able to coordinate for him to get on that rooftop and be able to sing freely, as you saw. So we're so grateful for him to do that for us. So beautiful.
So beautiful.
So take a moment. All right. I don't know if you know who Julia Coney is, but I had the amazing opportunity to meet with her in January, which seems like last year. It was just in January at Assemblage. Julia Coney is a Washington, D.C. and Houston, Texas-based wine writer, wine educator, speaker, and consultant. Her writing includes stories on wine, winemakers, and the intersection of race, wine, and language. She holds a WSET Level 2 certification in wine and spirits and is currently pursuing her master level champagne certification with the Wine Scholar Guild and WSET Level 3 certification. Her work has been featured in VinePair, Wine Enthusiast, Thrillist, The Tasting Panel, Plate, Magazine, Forbes, WineEnthusiast.com, Glamour, Essence, The Washington Post, and numerous print and digital publications. Oh, I hope I have a list that long one day. Julie is a 2019 Fellow of the Professional Wine Writers Symposium at Meadowwood, Napa Valley. Julie has spoken at conferences such as Wine to Wine, Assemblage Symposium, and the Culinary Institute of America's Summit of Sommeliers and Beverage Professionals. You can find her on social media at julia.com. My sister, Julia Coney.
Wow, thank you, baby girl. Thank you, baby girl. Hello, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. First of all, thank you guys. When Siobhan mentioned it to me, and I was like, absolutely what you need me to do. I'm like, I'm going to take off work. I'm going to make sure I'm home. I'm not going to be rushing into this. I am going to give you all the fullness, as Eddie Murphy said in Boomerang, a whole Mac Daddy splendor. You know, I quote Boomerang. Boomerang is like one of my favorite movies. So I am happy to be here. I am happy for this day. I have said over the past couple of weeks, it has been the reckoning and the revolution. I definitely believe in that. I believe the change that is coming, and I'm speaking across the world, but also particularly in the wine industry, because I know it's a lot of wine people on here, maybe some people who are not really into wine or anything like that, but you're here to support. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I always say bubbles bring the party. I'm a big believer and proponent of bubbles. And one of the things I always like to say is the reason I am getting the Champagne Master Certification is not because I only drink champagne. I do love champagne, but I like bubbles. And majority of the world uses champagne as the method to make sparkling wine in wherever region they're making it. So to me, you also have to know the history in order to know where the present is going. So I drink sparkling wine made Charmat method, which is stainless steel. I drink Pet Nat, which is the first fermentation. I drink the secondary fermentation, which you have when you drink champagne or sparkling wines with the cages. And today, for me, I have what I call my house wines. Some people don't, I do. My house white, comparatively, you know, it's still a blend with some red grapes, is the J Vineyards California Cuvée. That's what I bring out to most people. If you're having a cookout, I'm bringing that. Pretty much, I'm not bringing my champagne because otherwise I got to hide it and drink it by myself. Most people don't know, so I'm just not doing that. But my house champagne is the Champagne Lallier Brut Rosé. They make a Brut, but I love their Rosé. I met the family in 2017 in in the region of Champagne. They are lovely people, very nice. For a big production company coming out of they really know their stuff. They're just some nice folks. And, you know, we had a great time. So
what's the price point on that?
So the J is 25. The rough price point around the Lallier is 50 with tax.
That's great. That's a great house champagne.
Yeah, and I drink, and I told the ladies this, I drink a bottle of the Lallier every Monday. I call it #Champagne Mondays in my house. I usually pretty much start around 12:31 with lunch. I do not put a champagne top on it. It is finished. Sometimes there's 2 bottles, depends on how Mondays are going. And I tell you, it is what it is, right? It is one of those things is very comforting for me. I know a lot of people just crack up laughing, you know, but I usually do not use what I call the champagne stoppers very often. That have those. I don't use those because I finish a bottle myself. It's rare I'm going to use those. I might use them for a few hours, but that's about it. Once that bottle is open, the bottle is finished.
Other people ask, what do I do with a bottle that's open? I'm like,
drink it.
Drink it.
I don't understand your question. What do you mean there's wine left in the bottle?
And here's the thing about bubbles too, and I always tell people, if you're opening a bottle of bubbly, oh yeah, I see Aaron, that's some good stuff. If you're opening a bottle of bubbly, any kind, do not keep putting a cork or a top on it. You know those champagne stoppers like I showed you that cost like $5? You lose a lot of the bubbles when you keep you know how people want to just top a bottle of wine, take it off, keep doing that? You cannot do that with bubbly. It will send the bubbles flat, quicker, and than a shooting star.
I agree.
I see everybody holding up there. Okay. Oh yeah.
What's everybody drinking?
Everybody, I see Nicholas Maillard. Women and Carrie got the A Margay. We got some Lolly. Roxy got the Margay. Okay, Sakari, I see you, sis.
I see a Saber bottle there.
Who got a Saber bottle?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Deborah.
I see you. Wow.
And one thing I don't particularly like sabering. I don't want to lose any juice, not a drop. I get it's a great part. I get it, and I can do it smoothly. I practice with still air, butter knife, all those things.
Of the bottle.
Oh yeah, I like a saber.
Everyone's got.
I heard somebody say that.
Yep. There we go.
Oh, so I personally don't. I think it's fun. I love the sword. I have a very beautiful one that I picked up in Rams that works for me. Don't rarely take it out the box. I just look at it. It's, you know, it's just pretty. But what happened in 2016 was I've been traveling to France, but, you know, drinking champagne, and like most people you're in traveling to France, you know about Nicolas Foulon and drinking a lot of that. But it took me going to Champagne and having a lunch, a 6-course caviar and oyster and pate lunch at Coney in Epernay, across from Avenue de Champagne.
As you do.
As you do.
As one does, yes.
As one does. And I remember it was a day trip.
I'm following.
It was a day trip, and I was like, okay, I have to step my champagne up, because I had never in my life saw the list that they had. They had over 300 champagnes for lunch.
And you think that's because of how culturally here we drink champagne as more of like it's only at celebration?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
It was at lunch, and this was I want you to know this was a Wednesday. It wasn't like it was a Friday lunch. This was a Wednesday lunch. And by the time we finished the lunch, I had to buy the wine check bag from them, because I bought the champagne from them. And I was like, I'm going back to Paris. I'm not taking these wines. And it was names like Ulysse Cologne, Eagly, all these kind of crazy producers, Benoit Maguet, Dehu. And I was like, who are these people? And that just started a rabbit hole. And so 4 months later, I went back to Champagne. I specifically went for 3 days, and I went to one of the best wine bars there in Reims called the Wine Bar Vintage. And this guy, Nicholas, who was with my friend and Claire and I, we were both like, we need a trip here, man. We got to do a trip here. We got to do this. We went, and he was like, oh yeah, come to my wine bar. And he showed me his book, and I was like, so you have 45 champagnes by the glass? And none of them were the major houses. And I was shocked. I was just kind of like, wow, like your base level entry was Pommery. That was the only one that was on his 45 by the glass that was a well-known name. And so after that, 2018 rolled around, went to Champagne again, got really in trouble because I went to a wine store, and the dude was like, so this champagne maker's daughter, who's 18, just finished school, she's making these bottles. We're just selling them off the cuff. There's no label. They're 10 euro a bottle.
I mean, it's just.
And I went, okay, how can I get a pallet? My mind didn't even go to a box, Siobhan. It went to a pallet. And I thought, how can I ship the pallet to, I just kept going. And he was like, oh, you got to.
You don't ship a pallet. You just jump on somebody else's pallet.
No. I bought a pallet. I was on the WhatsApp from the store talking to friends. What do you want? I'm getting a pallet. We only have to pay 800 euros. Literally, we get 52 cases. Yep. 52 cases. What do you want? Do you trust me? I need you to send me the money, because my husband is going to kill me, because American Express is going to call. True enough, he called me and said, what happened? American Express said, we have this unusually large purchase in Champagne. I said, I will pay the bill in 72 hours.
You said what happened was,
but it was all the Agripar and Fille, Vouette and Sorbet, all this like vintage stuff that I couldn't get back here because you're not getting it there. And he was selling it to me at the wholesale rate, because and that is why you get a pallet of champagne. You get friends who just, I'm gonna trust you. And when the pallet came, they met me at the store, and everybody just picked up their champagne. It was already done. And I don't know if I could be that crazy in the moment again. I hope to be once I'm back in Champagne.
You haven't been to Champagne with me.
Yeah, I've been to Champagne.
I'm just saying.
But when he did that, he's a really good friend, and he was just, and so I have champagne with no labels, because somebody's daughter was just playing around and wanted to make her own champagne, and she's 18.
Champagne is such a magical place, and the people, I mean, all of the wine regions typically have magic, right? There's a magic to each of them. But there's something about Champagne, because it's so cold, because it's so far north. You have to be really committed to making champagne. You've got all these things against you. It takes years to make one bottle. It's cold. You never know what's going to happen with the grapes. Then you're talking about these bottles that could possibly explode. I mean, it is the most risky of the wines to make, but damn, it's delicious.
It's a labor of love. That's really what it is. As I switch, and I don't know who's on here. Like, I drink my champagne out of a white wine glass. This is, especially if it's going to present as Chardonnay heavy.
You don't want me to drink it out of this?
Here's the thing about flutes. Flutes don't hold aromatics. You can't really get your nose up in there. You're not getting the same taste. You're not getting, and I tell people all the time, pour the same wine in a flute and in a white wine glass, or even a red wine glass. Like, I'm drinking my rosé out of a red wine glass. It's a bigger bowl. That's like, let's see, like you can see this one is kind of smaller.
So with
one in the big one.
So with my, I see the difference obviously with that.
Notice the bubbles, even before you do it, if you see the bubbles.
Yeah.
And then once you go into that, and also too, one of the things that I was taught in Champagne is never leave your hand. Once you take the foil off, thumb must stay on top.
Thank you.
Because you're not turning a cork, you're turning a bottle.
Again, thank you.
Whoops.
What
I
is,
opened my bottle before we got on the call. It was a giant pop, and she was like,
pop.
"Ooh,
And I
girl."
was at,
I was
okay.
like, "Ooh, my bad."
Hold the cork, turn the bottle.
and they say you turn the cage 6 times to unloose it.
That's true.
Like the cage. So for me, when I turn the bottle, the sound I'm looking for is this. Not a pop.
Look at that clap. Look at all the claps. Claps.
That's all I'm looking for. And then, of course, you know, when you start seeing the bubbles in the mousse, you want those bubbles rising. That's what you want. And you can't get that in a flute.
No.
And so the reason why I like these 2 wines, also they're food friendly. I'm married to a pescatarian. So there's sometimes I cook 2 main dishes, main courses, and the sides are the same. So he could have something that goes with his. And if I'm having red meat, this rosé actually goes very well with red meat. I don't think a lot of people think of rosé champagne with like hamburgers. And
I think any sort of fat or grease or
yes.
like creaminess to it is going to be great with champagne because of the high acidity.
Yeah, but also I like to call this my strawberry now later wine.
Which one is that?
Lallier Rosé, strawberry now later. Because that's the notes you're going to get, right? And because where E is, you know, you have champagne and then you have Reims, and then E is a little like Southwest. And so it has a different climate. So they can make exceptional rosés. And also they don't produce as much. I mean, because when, you know, there's 7 villages that really make up Champagne, and you also have to say, you know, the same grapes. But what's interesting is this rosé is a blend of Pinot Noir and Chardonnay.
Okay.
And I think the Chardonnay just gives it that beautiful finish that you want in a rosé. It's not 100% Pinot Noir, because I usually think when it's 100% Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier, which is that 3rd grape that's always in there, it's really tart, has beautiful acid, but you definitely can't sip on it if you just want it to sip. You kind of like need something. I drink a lot of champagnes I call aperitif champagnes, which means food is optional. I encourage food, but food is optional. I see Diana laughing at me. Food is optional.
With champagne, I mean, I think champagne just goes with everything. Cleaning the house, a bath.
Yes. And I mean, if you think about now, everybody's going champagne and fried chicken, right? I think the greatest gifts of champagne is the ability to go with potato chips.
Mm.
Oh yeah, potato chips, caviar, and champagne.
But even if you don't want caviar, and there's a difference. So here's the thing: if you're doing a Blanc de Blanc, which is Chardonnay of Chardonnay, and it's crisp and it's tart and it's low sugar, plain Lay's potato chips. The reason I say plain Lay's is because the salt content changes when you go to kettle chips, Ruffles, and it will change. Yes, I mean, I've done the test.
Sour cream Ruffles?
Yes.
That's
Hey, got the Lay's. I see you.
Yes.
Lay's.
Because for
I
me,
see you with your
if you're
chips.
doing kettle chips, you know how you got the sea salt? Now, if you like the spicy jalapeno, get you a demi-sec champagne, the Laurent Perrier demi-sec champagne, that slight sweet with that hot heat. or the Trader Joe's ghost pepper chips. They got these ghost pepper chips now. Get you a sweet demi-sec champagne, you're done. I mean, that's a meal, whole bag. That's like real. We're in the pandemic, everybody's eating.
I know. I'm working on my pandemic body right now.
So that's one of the things I think when we think of champagne here, we're like, you know, it has to be fancy. It has to be, you know, somebody's birthday, graduation, like you said, wedding. Where in Champagne, one of the beauties when someone has a baby in France, and not just champagne, they actually open champagne and they pour champagne on the finger of the mother or father, and they put it on the baby's lips as a tradition for a blessing.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's a beautiful story in Dorothy Gator and John Brusher's book where they took, I want to say 1976 Salon champagne, which probably right now retails about $800, on their daughter's lips when she was born. And it's such a beautiful story because there's this history of their relationship, and then there's a baby. I know just fall out. Just like, just fall out.
I mean,
think about it. Think about, like, you getting a blessing is not just holy water. It is the holy of the holy.
I feel like it starts you off on a different path in life. I'm just saying. Just perhaps.
You know, I don't have kids, and if I'm like, this is I think it's like a beautiful thing, right?
I'm gonna catch up. I'm gonna just catch up with it.
But that is the beauty that I think no other type of wine brings. I think, like I said, when I say, but when you hear somebody saying they got some bubbles, everybody gets a smile on their face. Think about it. You can say, I'm bringing a white wine. People are like, I don't like white. Oh, I'm bringing a red wine. I don't like red wine. Oh, I'm bringing bubbles. Oh, okay.
We can party.
Not the party.
Immediately, and some people might say, well, I get a headache, and usually I go, well, what bubbles are you drinking? And just know, sometimes the headache is not the bubbles. You may be a person that needs food with your bubbles. You may not be like me that I just need chips.
Yep.
And we forget that part that of each person is also individual.
Yes. Now, I had to run into this when I was working in restaurants for a long time, because a lot of times we would have a sparkling wine on by the glass for $14 or $15. And then we would have a glass of champagne on by the glass that was $25 or $30 or more dollars. And people would say, have a glass of champagne. And you have to almost try and decide whether you're going to ask, did you mean champagne? Or
How would you do that? Because I can tell you what happens at the wine store when people ask me. So
I point, or I say the name.
okay.
I point to the menu. Whatever the situation is, like I tap it, or if I say the name, because you don't want to make people feel bad, but at the same time, people have really gotten into the habit of saying that everything is champagne when it's not.
Well, usually when people, like, they come into the store before, pre-COVID, and they're like, oh, I want some champagne. And usually I go, okay, well, are you having it for breakfast, brunch, a celebration? And once I can determine what they're doing, I say, oh, you don't want champagne. You want a sparkling wine because you're having mimosas. But let me tell you, and no, because they'll say they're having brunch, and they'll go, oh, yeah. And I say, so here's the thing. Champagne can only be made in champagne. And there's also a price point that goes with that. And you can see they'll go, oh, no, then. And I go, but let me tell you about sparkling wines. I think if you're using orange juice or Bellinis, you need cava. Because unless you're getting a really good Prosecco, that sugar content cancels of the juice, cancels out any flavor of the bubbles, right? So I always say, go to cava, you're getting something a little drier. Let me tell you the ratio. And people are like, oh, okay. And then they'll come back and they say, oh, so let me talk about champagne again. And now I have a person who's very interested. And then we go into, well, it's from France, and you have to be part of these, you have these grapes, and then these villages. And then it's, as President Obama said, my president for life, a teachable moment.
Teachable moment.
Teachable moment.
I mean, it's been a thing because wine is so trendy, right? For the time ago, cava came in, and then everybody was like, "Oh, cava," but it's the still distinction of cava, champagne, Prosecco. But now it's even crazier when you have so many new world sparkling wines,
which I love.
We don't have a name for them yet.
They're sparkling wines. That's just really it.
It's not like a Cremant de Bourgogne or a Cremant de Alsace.
At the end of the day, in Cremant, the DO that came out a couple of years ago out of Spain called Reventos, Coney, that's still a sparkling wine. Champagne at the end of the day is still a sparkling wine. But the difference is only if it's made in Champagne in those areas. Because remember, you could be in Champagne and be right off the line, you're still making a sparkling wine.
Exactly.
So it's a delineation of where it is. And
Correct.
so that's why they're doing, Champagne right now is reviewing, like Bordeaux had to do, what line can we keep extending to bring more people in? Because a lot of those times, a lot of people also don't realize, you know, like I work at a boutique wine store. People come in all the time and was like, you guys don't sell Vouv. What kind of wine store is this? But they don't know.
Is that at like the regular store?
Huh?
Can't you get
No,
that?
but here's what you have to say. And it's really a beautiful way to say, you know what? We're a store of place. We love these small guys. And guess what? They actually go to grapes for the bigger houses because they actually have vines.
Right.
And that gives you a different perspective. I've learned not to say, oh, well, you can get that at Costco. I mean, because at first I used to say that, you get that up the road. Like, but then it became like, that's not a good way, Julia. How do we get people interested and engaged and to stay and to actually have a discussion? Because they honestly don't know. They have been bombarded with ads. There's a beautiful polo match. They all are going. They're all trying to dress and take photos, but they don't really understand growers and production. All they know is a yellow label or a white label that I'm very much interested in. And it's my job in retail to also talk to them and also to explain that when I do parties about when we're talking budget. Because a lot of times I had to create a contract where I do not pour major brands of champagne. I don't pour major brands of any wine at a private event, but I am interested in small producers. I've had business people go, well, they want this. And I'm like, okay, you can pour it. I just won't be the person pouring it. And I'm perfectly fine. Here's somebody that's okay with that. And I'm not against those, but I feel when you're hiring a wine educator, we have to really discuss, what are you trying to educate, or you just want me pouring? Because then I feel that's not my job. I will give that to somebody who can actually pour better than me, because I am very heavy-handed with bubbles. So I feel like giving it to somebody else. And also, and they're like, because I'm also looking like, if you're a major corporation, this is the time to showcase your being different. So let me slip some things in. Let me, okay, if I have to talk to you about this one, can I show 2 of these? So I'm always trying to negotiate for, okay, let's do big and too small, because the big doesn't need an introduction. And usually by the end of the night, the small always wins. People come back and back and back. And it's a beautiful thing, because they're like, that was just so interesting.
Interesting. That's the thing, is it's different. Because I think that with the big houses, and there's a question on the board of how do people feel when you decide to not pour the major brands?
We have a conversation about it. And so here's the thing about major brands. I'm not against major brands, because the reason the growers I like have a job is because the major brands buy their grapes.
Yeah, I think that's like a thing that people don't realize, is the grape buying, is that they're using the best grapes, but they're just making a smaller portion of it. Like,
it's when you think of laws, like in Champagne, you only need 15 months in the bottle before you release. That's all you need, 15 months before you put it on market. Lallier, the majority of growers, even in California, the ones like Jay, they're doing 18, 36 months in the bottle. So they're extending that time in a way that the majority, but here's the thing, the big houses also I love Krug. The big houses own Krug. I'm not turning any vintage of Krug down, any of it. When I see it on sale, a price.
I said any vintage, because you've had some, I can see you had some late vintages. That's what that says to me.
Here's the thing about vintage. It's kind of like the one thing, beauty about wines, right? The thing about Champagne is they don't make vintage unless the year is perfection. So every year doesn't have a vintage just because we want to be 2019 has a vintage. And I'm going to tell you guys now, when you start seeing 2018 vintage champagnes on the market, these sales, 2018 was a perfect year in Champagne.
You heard it here first, people.
2018,
2018.
everything, God said, I gave you crap for 2017, 16. I gave you frost. I gave you heat in 2019. It just sucked. So I'm going to give you this beauty of 2018. Yeah.
Julia, that's some insider trading right there. That you just hooked us up with because we didn't know. Now we're going to be like, oh, we all buying this.
Oh
the
yeah, I
palette.
would say
So
if
the
you
palette.
can do
So how many
champagne,
palettes are we gonna do?
Probably will be
if
less
you could do
expensive.
champagne futures, like Zacky's does futures, I want to say for 2018, I would say save your coins, figure out a couple of bottles, and let them age no less than 10 years.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
10 years.
So
10 years.
Julia, I have one more question for you. So when you do have these clients who are asking you obviously about major houses, I'll just put out two major houses specifically. Like if somebody's asking you for Moet Chandon, or if somebody's asking you for like a Veuve Clicquot, what are your go-to smaller houses as far as flavor profiles, so that way you can start really introducing them into that broader world?
Okay, so for Moet and Chandon, the regular, because Moet and Chandon has Imperial, they have second.
Yes.
So the basic Moet that you get, I try to find Aubrey, Aubry. Aubrey
Yes.
or Ayala, Ayala. That'll give them
Ayala.
that same kind of flavor profile, right?
Excellent.
If they are adamant about Veuve, because some people are adamant about Veuve, and this is my go-to thing. If you give me Veuve Rosé over Veuve Brut, I can go with you on that, because they don't make a lot of the rosé as much as they make of the Brut. So I'm still giving you yellow label, but I'm giving you a pink wine.
I mean, I think pink wine is.
But then guess what? They're like, oh, it's just a bigger, different price point. Yes, it is. So I'm just trying to give you, so we're going to cut something else. And usually depends on before tariffs, before COVID, because we got to remember a lot of delays are happening in Europe because of the pandemic and a lot of things like that. So I try to push for like the Lalliers if I'm doing that. And also too, if they want to, I've had an all women bar association bit, and only thing I poured were all women run or produced champagne houses.
That's the way to
De
be.
Souza was one of my favorite. DE space SOUSA is run by some sisters and a mom. They run that. I always, if you want a big name for that, we can go to Tatanjay, because Vitaly Tatanjay runs that. Then we go to Pommery, Madame Pommery. I always pull that, the whole house. I mean, if you go to visit Champagne, I would tell you go to Pommery, because it's actually also a museum. They have caves, but it's actually a museum.
It is. It is.
It's a museum with beautiful artwork that actually rotates seasonally. They put new art installations in it.
So Julia, I have a question for you, because you talked about getting these great champagnes from 2018 and keeping them for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of your recommendations for cellaring and safe storage and cellaring for some of us who may be space limited? Because I have a little linen closet that is now about 80% wine and 20% towels, and I'm just distributing towels and sheets throughout the rest of the house because I'm trying to make a space. So how would you recommend that we store some things for the long term?
I feel if you are able to afford one of these wine chillers that are like $250, get one of those. But if you can't, because I have a couple and I'm still running out of space. I gutted half my closet a few years ago to make space for wine. And the reason why is my closet in my office is the coldest room in my house. It is literally no vent. The vent is always on cold. I got like one of those little battery operated fans that actually blows on the wine. You want it in the coldest, darkest room, and cover the bottles. Go order like the cheapest velvet black cloth you can. And just cover the bottles.
Okay.
The bottles don't need to see light. They never need to be stored in your kitchen. Those beautiful wine racks that we all see, please do not do that if they're in your living room and you want to keep them. You're just making a beautiful vinaigrette balanced champagne for yourself that costs a lot of money. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be vinegar. It's not going to be, the bubbles need to be maintained. And also one of the things I learned that no one explains when they say storing wine and champagne, you also get your phone out. Every 8 weeks, every 8 to 12 weeks, set a reminder to actually turn the bottles. Even if it's in a cooler, don't leave that bottle that's been laying this. You almost have to think as they do in champagne where they riddle the bottles.
Right.
You want to turn that bottle a full counterclockwise or clockwise, half rotation, because it's been sitting.
Yep.
Got it. That's super
So
helpful.
I know it's a lot. I get it.
No, that's why, man. That's why.
I just tell you to put on, as Akilah would say, Beyonce. Put on some Beyonce.
Totally.
And just put on a homecoming album and just turn. Put on a homecoming album and just turn. Because what happens is there's finding the study is even laying on his side, some air is still going part ways, not in the top part of the court. And if you're leaving it there for a year, then that whole section is never actually having any touch with the wine.
Okay.
So I just set an alarm and but for me and people who are not, I'm very fortunate. I share a wine locker in Houston with my friend. Our wine locker is also a lounge. So a lot of my vintage stuff I actually put there because everything is stored at 59 degrees and it's in a locker. It's always, and so when I go home and I'm just like, I need to get rid of bottles, we just literally pop bottles and sit in the lounge and walked back to, she has a house, but I rent the garage apartment because I love my family, but they live too far in the suburbs in Houston. And I drink for a living, so I am not getting in an Uber that's 50 minutes just to go to the suburbs. I just rather walk to the garage apartment and be done.
Got it. That's super helpful. Yeah. I'll definitely look into it. Yeah. Okay. Would you turn all the bottles? I think someone had a question. Do you turn all the bottles?
Every bottle. But
okay.
Also, I'm a little nerdy. So I'm like, I don't know, I'm a geeky person. So there's something called Cellar Tracker. And if you're really if you want to spend and invest money in wine, I would tell you invest money in Cellar Tracker. Or if you want to do it the easy, quick way, you get label stickers. You label the bottle in a small sticker, 1 through 20. And that way, you know which dates you want to turn, keep it in a Google sheet, keep it, and that way also, if you remove the bottle to drink, you know what happened to the bottle. Because sometimes I'm like, did I drink that? But I use a labeling system with Cellar Tracker that I use my phone and I scan when I take a bottle out my locker. So I don't have to know what happened. You don't have to be as type A as me. But since the last 4 years when I went down this champagne wine rabbit hole.
It's Mission Impossible. We got biometrics, fingerprints.
I started buying the majority of my clothes from Target and the rest of
right?
wine. So I mean, I have to decide priorities. Do I really need that bag again? Do I really need that outfit again? So now I'm like, no, I just need some wine.
Right.
Wine.
But also because I use, in September is my 10-year wedding anniversary. My husband and I both are born a month apart on the 18th. I'm December 18th. He's January 18th. We're only drinking for 3 weeks, 2002.
Wow.
So there would be 18 years. And so I'm driving to Texas to pull out the 2002s. I'm also pulling out first growth Margaux, Latours. I was very fortunate that a friend's father, when he died, left me some vintage Bordeaux.
And I think what you just mentioned is such a thing that I personally don't do, but I'll start doing now, is getting the wines from the years that are momentous occasions, like the years you get married, years your children are born, because I know Dottie and John do that too. They save a bottle from the year that their daughter was born. They opened it at our wedding. So just having something in mind that kind of commemorates that, it's like saving a newspaper. You know,
I come from a family that they don't drink. I'm from the South. My family really doesn't drink, but my nieces and nephews all drink. They're older and they weren't into really wine. And when they all turned 21, I gave them a birth year of a wine. And I wrote a note why that wine, I picked that wine. I specifically picked it for each child. So I still have some for when this one turned 21, because for me, they're like the children I never had. I love them the same. I did not birth them, but for me, I want them to know why I gave them that wine. Now, they opened it, I was like, some of this is old, like we gotta do the Ron, and they just thought, even though they didn't get it, some of them the older ones now are getting it, because they're like, that was a moment that I can never get back.
Right.
Because this is such a beauty that you did this. And so for me, if you don't have kids, whatever, especially like a best friend,
Yeah.
you know, when my cousin, I see she, when my cousin turned 50, we went to Aruba, but when she graduated nursing school in 2001. So I commemorated her 50th birthday with her graduating nursing school. And so because she was a late bloomer to nursing school, she went back after having kids. So I thought, for your birthday, I'm bringing you 2001, you know, and that's what I did. And that was actually in 2016. We went to, and so let's celebrate. It could be friends. It doesn't have to be kids. It could be somebody, just somebody you love. That's how I look at the beauty of wine, even though it, you know, it's an industry. I feel like sometimes I told my husband I'm in an abusive relationship with the wine industry.
No, you're not.
No, because sometimes like I feel like what I'm fighting for is something I love, but it doesn't treat me right, but I keep going back to it because I'm hoping that one day they'll love me as much as I love it.
Right.
That's the only way I can describe it.
Maybe one day.
That day is going to happen. I am going to live to see that day. I'm telling you this. I am going to be on this planet and not like live, oh, I saw it. No, I'm going to be in it when it happens.
There's a question from the audience, and I know the answer, but I'm going to let you just tell the answer. How do you feel about coops?
That was enough.
Wait. Before you answer this question, I want everybody to know that when we asked her to do this, she made a comment about our beautiful poster.
I said, we're not drinking out of coops. So, I mean, it was just, and she was like, Joya, it's the poster.
It's the poster.
I was like, I don't want anybody thinking I'm drinking out of coops. And Siobhan was like, it's a poster. Like,
it's just art, Julia. It's just art.
So coops are great for cocktails.
Okay, everybody heard that?
I like that. You spun it into a cocktail.
Oh, there it is. Boom.
Cocktails. Coops are for cocktails.
Because also, you have to also think, it's a quick history of why that is. When champagne, you got to remember how climate change has affected everything. So climate change has affected champagne. So when champagne was first really brought into the US, coops was also part of the Gatsby tribe. Like if you think about the 1920s, the roaring 20s, that was the style of glassware that also fit the actual style of bubbles. Because of climate change and the bubbles are so much more concentrated now, you have to have something to allow that concentration to breathe. So if you go to Champagne, they will serve you a coupe, a Manhattan gin and tonic in a coupe. Every place in pretty much Champagne, you will see a Zalto Universal, a Gabriel Glass Universal. You will see a Universal wine glass. You will not see a Champagne flute or a coupe.
Yeah, but they're cute and they're just,
hey,
they're cute.
Make a fish 75.
They're
Put it in
cute.
a coupe.
They're cute.
Make a champagne cocktail, put it in a coupe. But if you're drinking a champagne or sparkling wine, a place and you really want to just geek out for like 2 minutes on it, just geek out in a glass. That's it.
So we have another question from our guest.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to ask Julia first, but then I would like the rest of the panel to answer. Is there a sparkling from an unconventional, so not France, Spain, or Italy, or maybe even the US, that you really, like a region that you really love that's like obscure, but is sparkling?
Well, the problem of it is they're hard to find in the US, right? If we think, like if I will say, hey, I know they're experimenting in Hungary with ferment secondary, method champagne, a lot of people are not gonna be able to taste that because they're not actually going to be able to get it. So you have regions like that. You have actually Georgian, they're doing some fun stuff with like orange wines, technically skin contact wines in Georgia, that they're using secondary, the champagne method to make those. Mm-hmm. One of the, I love California sparkling. There is a woman and husband, it's called Carboniste. They make a sparkling Albarino.
Ooh.
Woo!
Delicious.
This wine, y'all.
So good.
Blow your mind.
So good.
It's so good. And I have to shout them out because right now that's the ones that I am like just loving. But also when I went to Cahors, which doesn't happen in Argentina, but in Cahors where Malbec is originated, they make sparkling Malbec.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? They make sparkling Malbec. If you go to Uruguay, they make sparkling Tanat that is red, that is a champagne style, but you're not going to get it in America.
Wow.
Because they decided, oh, we're gonna make, 300 bottles. And you hope that when you go to the grocery store in Uruguay, like I did, with like a bag, I was like, okay, let me get this in the soup. But those are really hard to find. So I always say, if you're traveling, seek the fun stuff out. Just go and find. I will say also, if you geo hashtag on Instagram, it's also some fun ways to see what people are doing with wine. Even just geo hack. Like if you look up pet nat, and if you don't know what pet nat is basically that first fermentation. When they're producing champagne, they put like a beer bottle top on it. That's the first fermentation. A lot of people bottle that and sell it. I actually love it. I think it's very delicious. I think Oregon is doing some great things with that. I think California is doing some great things with pet nat. And it's just a way to have bubbles that are just very different when you want to try something new. One of my favorites is by Chateau Famay, F-A-M-A-E-Y. We actually carry them if you're in DC. They have it at Wortman Wines, and it is a pet nat Malbec. It is like insanely pink. It's like fuchsia pink. It's just, but the bubble concentration is insane. It's it's just very interesting. It just makes wine fun, because I keep having these talks. Wine should be fun. And the way the world is making it not so fun. And at the end of the day, let's bring it back fun. So I try to drink wines that are, fun, in interesting. I try to always compare, old and new. That's why I say I'm not against the bigger houses. I'm just against people just sticking with a bigger house.
Right.
I totally agree.
That's it.
As we wrap up, I just want to point out really quick, if you guys have any other wines that you love that are not traditional champagnes, I personally, what stands out for me are the sparklings from Beaujolais. I mean, obviously, I love Gamay. But nobody really gets the sparkling from Beaujolais. And there's two people that come to mind right away. Frank Bassan, him and his wife, they do hand riddling. They do everything.
Yeah.
And Nicole Chanrion.
You should drop those names in the chat, though.
We will be dropping those in the
so people could understand. Because I think that as more people make sparkling, I love that they're introducing people to have sparkling not for a special occasion.
Right.
Everyday drinker.
Yes. Like also too, who doesn't want to drink something with bubbles? Who doesn't want to drink something where you literally, if you want to take a butter knife and go, boop, who doesn't want to do that? Life is hard enough. Jesus Christ.
Oregon too. I'm really proud of Oregon. I'm really proud of everybody doing stuff. I'm gonna call it out. Corollary wines are amazing. They're so young.
That's Stellar Sparkling. Stoller. That's Stoller Sparkling.
And there's so much coming out of Oregon as well. There's so much to go for. It's amazing. I'm so excited about people getting excited about it as a drinker, to drink like you would drink with food.
Yeah.
You would have a
red wine. If you're looking sparkling goes from fast food to fine dining.
Yeah, if you're looking for an Argentinian sparkling too from Malbec, Guggenheim Malbec sparkling, also great price point, super delicious. It's coming from Argentina too.
It's amazing.
So good.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's
time if you're in DC, they sell it at Grand Cata.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say too, and someone had put it in the chat, that the Bodkin wines, they have a sparkling Sauvignon Blanc, which was the first one. That one's delicious.
Yes.
That one is thebomb.com.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think we need to celebrate. I think Akila was talking on our chat earlier. The everyday wins, man. Everyday, the small everyday wins. I'm trying to live like her in harmony. Right now, I'm just not in harmony because I'm launching a new website. So there's no harmony. There is like a lot of work. But once that's done, I'll be back with my harmony.
You got to go back to
They're all lies for me. I'm ending white supremacy, so I don't have harmony. But I talk about
yeah, but guess what? I owe you a bottle of bubbles that I got to send to you.
Oh,
I'm here.
Oh,
I know.
I love it.
Yeah, but I want to also just say to everyone on here, thank you so much. I wanted to see everybody. I didn't want this to be a webinar. I wanted to see people's faces. And I'm a fangirl over here for Miss Leah over here.
Leah!
I have been fangirl for a long time.
I see Leah, I see Sukari, I see Jackson,
Yeah.
and my little baby.
I say Miss Erica Christian over there. She think I don't know who she is.
Aaron, Elaine, so many people.
Yes.
Oh my God. Elaine is here. Jan. Oh my God. Everybody.
It's Kyla.
Faces.
I see my she's not here like but she's on here sharing me. So I'm going to
Desiree representing LA.
Yes. This is beautiful though. I want to thank you for actually wanting me to be a part. I think this is what you guys have done today. Is just we really need a celebration. We need a celebration while we have a revolution. And you know, and it's interesting because I grew up in Texas, so Juneteenth was one of those days you never went to school. Like I just think you didn't go to school, you didn't go, but you did. You went to the Emancipation Park in Third Ward, and you had hot dogs and lollipops in your neighborhood. Wow. You know, Park did all that. So for me to see people who didn't know about Juneteenth, and I think because growing up in Texas, being with my Black parents, were like, you don't go to school on Super Tuesday, and you don't do anything on Juneteenth. These are the days because you're gonna work a pole. That's what you did as a kid in my parents' house. You didn't go to school, you worked the pole on Super Tuesday, and you had to pick your own candidate. So you had to go, I believe in this candidate, and they would contact them so you could stand out and post flyers. So to see this movement and engagement on today, which this beautiful holiday that a lot of people are discovering for the very first time, I do appreciate that, to see the outpouring of this celebration, because I promise you, 3 months ago, I never would have thought that what's happening today would have been in honor of Juneteenth, and seeing the videos and people talking about it. So thank you guys for actually coming up with the idea. As no, seriously, but beauty comes out when you've been sipping on wine and drinking late at night, having a phone call. That's how it's that's what we're trying to do, create a world of beauty.
We're so grateful. I feel like this team has just been like amazing, the way everything's come together, and you saying yes, and Dr. Kadey, and just everything that's been happening. And we're so excited. We cannot wait to take this to in person with each other.
Hey, look, I'm honored because I see some Batonage scholars on here that I feel like this is my full circle moment. It's like I created this scholarship not knowing I couldn't even go, but I see the beauty of people it brought together, and that makes my heart sing, man, because As we close out, I want to say thank you as well to Julia Coney.
Thank you.
For your time today. I know you're busy. We appreciate you being here.
I have a full life. I'm not busy. I have a full life.
You have a full life. Dr. Kadey, you have a full life. Lindsay Williams, Alicia Summer, Roxy Navarez. Yes.
Almost. You're getting there. Yeah.
I'm getting it. I want to speak French.
I want to say
French. Roxy, for your one name, it's just Roxy, just one name.
I'm cool with that. I love that. That's great.
Roxy, we don't even have the last name, just kidding. I'm Siobhan Ball of Dirty Radish as well. We wanted to close this out with a little fun, just giving a little shout out to Dr. Kadey as well.
Beyonce. Oh, Rough Riders? Yes! What?
Something new.
Stop. Drop.
Shut them down. No. That's how rough
roll.
Stop. Drop. Shut them down.
Take a screenshot. Keep dancing.
No. That's how rough riders roll.
Love you guys.
Niggas wanna try. Niggas wanna lie. Niggas wanna lie. Niggas wanna die.
Oh, I needed that.
Wait. I'm sorry. I gotta say one thing.
That's him.
I see Michael Cruz. Is that the Michael Cruz? I'm about to have a moment, y'all. Oh my God, I'm just looking at this like 2 years ago, the wine store was like, we can't get Michael Cruz. I'm like, I can sell Michael Cruz. I can sell Jesus to God. Please let me have this wine. And we have your Valdegay and your monkey jacket, and your Chardonnay is my house Chardonnay. So I am like, oh my God, like I gotta go.
No,
I got to go.
The honor's mine, Julia.
Oh my God.
Honor's mine.
Oh my God, okay.
Thank you, Michael, for being here. Thank you, everyone. We hope you go celebrate. Don't forget 4 p.m. on our Juneteenth Saber celebration. IG Live, DJ Tempo and DJ Major, 2 young gals on the ones and twos.
Ones and twos. It's gonna be fun. I'm gonna jump in. We'll talk. You might see me dance. Thank you so much for being here. This is gonna be on YouTube. Don't worry. You can see it again. Share it with your friends. Thank you,
everyone. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Happy Juneteenth. Happy Juneteenth.
Happy Juneteenth.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just want the keys back to my vehicle. They just wanna tell you that I love you.
Thanks, guys.
I just wanna tell you this is how I feel.
Another screenshot.
I love when Julia forgets she's the Beyonce of wine. Like, people come to see you just like they come to see Beyonce. I've told you this several times
I know you
before.
keep calling me that. I am not the Beyonce. Don't get me wrong.
Yes, you
love
are.
Beyonce, but
You are.
You are. That's what we all call you.
Who calls me that besides you, Akilah?
I made it a thing. I've tweeted it several times, posted about it.
The only person I know call me that is Akilah. And she's
Well,
been
make it a
saying that,
thing. We have 4 people that will for sure call you that moving forward.
Well, let me tell you, I love me some Bay. I do. You know, when like literally when the guy was singing "Lift Every Voice and Sing," after that, I literally in my head going, "Oh, we're gonna start with the next. We're gonna be the Beyonce song from Homecoming," because after she sings that in Homecoming, it's like y'all boys crazy with this Illuminati. I literally thought they was gonna go into
We were
that.
talking about it before because, as you know, I was there weekend 1 of
Yes.
Coachella. I'm an avid Beyonce advocate. So when she started singing that, I was like, oh my God, wait. And because white people didn't know what was happening. They were like, what is this new song? Is she releasing it for, Coachella? And they were looking it up afterwards. But I just knew how much blackness I was going to get, which is a monumental moment in my life. I mean, she came out very black.
And I was a person that wasn't there in person, but I was watching it on the live, on the live stream. And it was like, I should be there in the front. There's people who don't even know what she's talking about. It's going over their heads.
Yeah.
And I'm going hype in my living room, jumping, throwing things.
Yeah.
So
it was an entire HBCU experience, which is something everyone should witness. So if you want to do something for Juneteenth, you can watch Homecoming on Netflix.
There you go.
And see it and enjoy it. I'm gonna put that on my list of I'm gonna update my post and tell people to watch Homecoming.
Because I'm literally when he was singing, and I was like, I know they're gonna go into it. I know he's singing it. They're about to go into it. They're like,
the music
like,
and then the
"Wanna go?"
lighting and the stage. I know.
This is Zoom after hours, you guys.
Zoom after hours. Wait, we have to make an official statement.
Now.
The seminar has ended.
No. You know you're still recording.
Yeah, I know.
Wait, before you end the recording, the most important thing is henceforth today, I dubbed this July 3rd or 4th, 2019. In my first Instagram post that you, Julia Coney, are in fact the Beyonce of wine, okay? It is now recorded, so henceforth, she's only known as Julia Coney or the Beyonce of wine. Make it a thing, make it a hashtag.
That's so fun. Because I don't see myself as that. I just see myself as an advocate for wine. And I always like to tell people,